Finally, Bryce Harper is officially off the market. Harper signed a 13-year deal with the Philadelphia Phillies this past week for a whopping $330 million. Now that all the big fishes have found a home, at last I'm here with Zach and David to recap this year's record-breaking MLB free agency. So, David, basically, does Harper's signing make Philly a real threat to win the World Series this year?
Maybe not this season, but they're certainly building to return to that dynasty era that they had about a decade ago when you had the dynamite closer in Brad Lidge. You
Ryan
had Howard, Chase Utley, Charlie Manuel being that fiery manager on the bench. They're kind of getting back to that same deal now. You've got Rhys Hoskins. They just re-signed Aaron Nola to an extension. You've got Bryce on this monster deal. So they may not all gel enough in this first season to be a World Series threat, but they're certainly building for it. They got to get through the Braves and the NL East first. But
Yeah, not this year, but when Rhys Hoskins develops a little more, you add that Bryce Harper, that's a great 3-4 in the lineup right there. But they have the toughest division in the MLB. Probably that NL East like a 4-team race right now to possibly win the NL East.
Do you think they could win it?
They could, but they have to go through a lot. In World Series, I'd hold off on that for another year or two.
Definitely. So, Zach, what was the most shocking signing in this year's free agency?
Staying in the NL East, I'm going to go with Josh Donaldson. The Braves already have a lot of infield and outfield young talent, and they spent a lot of money, $23 million in Josh Donaldson, when they could have went out and maybe got a Dallas Keuchel or maybe bring Craig Kimbrell back and fill the pitching weakness they have to compete with some of the great NL East pitchers like Syndergaard, DeGrom, Nola, Scherzer.
you mentioned Kimbrell, and I think that bridge was burned when he got traded to the Padres very suddenly a few years ago. But to me, the most surprising signing thus far is a non-signing. Dallas Keuchel is still on the board. And why, I have no idea, other than possibly he's extremely picky. He's a 4-time Gold Glover, former Cy Young winner. He's not had as great an ERA the last couple of years as in years past, but it's still about 3.5. It's not a bad ERA by any means. But the Astros reportedly are still in talks. The Braves, like you said, have a very big pitching problem, so that would be a crucial pickup if they could get it. But his options are dwindling, and for the money that he seems to be demanding right now, it just doesn't seem logical for him to still be on the board.
Well, finally, David, is MLB free agency broken? Should baseball look at altering its current state, whether it be shorting the deadline of signing, altering arbitration, maybe even adopting restricted free agency like the other major sports? Is it broken?
MLB free agency isn't broken, and I'm sorry, the players are greedy. Bryce Harper, a 13-year deal sounds very stable, but think about how much risk you're taking banking on Bryce Harper to be completely injury-free for the next 13 years. That is a risk that I don't see the logic in any team taking. Nonetheless, the Phillies that are still, I would argue, in a rebuilding mode, trying to get back to what they had about a decade ago. That's just Bryce Harper. Not to mention he's a great player. He certainly is. But 13 years for $330 million is ridiculous to me.
Well, Zach, what about you? Is MLB free agency broken?
I'm going to say no, and I'm going to think the last few free agent classes I'd say are on the weaker side. I think a lot of MLB GMs have been really targeting this next year's free agency. We got Garrett Cole, Chris Sale, Alexander Bogaerts, J.D. Martinez, Paul Goldschmidt, Justin Verlander, Madison Bumgarner, Didi Gregorius. So I think a lot of teams are saving that money for next year's free agent class, and I think that's when you return to see the little bidding wars and the MLB free agency we're used to seeing.
Definitely. Well, that's all the time we have left from the Diamond, but when we come back, we'll discuss some of the most disappointing teams around the NBA.